Let's throw our hands in the air as we soar through the sky.
Yatta!
We'll catch the sun with your hand in mine, and if we work as a team, everything will be fine.
Yeah!
Oh, it's Cure of the What Now?
Let's henshin and start the show.
Hello, fellow graduating seniors, and welcome to episode 43 of
Cure of the What Now?
What was that?
I'm trying new things.
I don't think you should. This is the one show where we know that the only thing that could stop Tro-fest at this point is a giant whale.
Oh no, what's that in the sky?
It's a bird!
No, it's a plane?
No, it's the gay rights whale!
Note to self, put that in the thumbnail so that joke makes sense.
Every joke makes sense if you're watching the show. My name is Kat, and I am real excited to be contributing an enormous clay sculpture for the Tro-fest. It's an octopus. I'm coming for you, Miki.
And I'm your co-host, Joel, and, I'm just a girl who enjoys being yelled at by the guy that she likes. If he's trying to be nice to me, it's the wrong vibe. It doesn't make sense. To be clear, I identify as a man. I was just playing off of one of the fresh episodes that we watched, Couldn't
you be a guy who really wants to have a good time and is trying not to yell, but that only makes your female friend angrier for some reason?
That one hits too close to home, is the thing, so...
Oh my gosh, are you a Daisuke, but in real life?
Kind of, yeah.
This just in, anime characters can bear similarities to real people. Because writing the core of good storytelling, it's in experience. Papaya, help me.
Lord Papaya.
See, that's what he needed to do. He just needed to throw a papaya at love, and then it would all be Daijibu.
Yeah, absolutely. Now. I want to set, this is kind of like an announcement. It's not really an announcement, but, long ago we had solemn Cotwin promises. And first off, we haven't done one in a while. And second of all, I think the way that my brain works, I'm actually more likely to do things if I turn it into a solemn Cotwin promise. I am setting a solemn intention and making a solemn promise that by the time episode 45 comes out, that's 2 episodes from now, I will have at least recorded, if not edited, one of those videos.
Look at everyone. I'm going to poke very, very gentle fun at my husband here. And these are going to be videos about things that, you love, that you're really passionate about, right?
Yeah. 2 of them are. So, I don't know who really cares about anything outside of PreCure, but I have one that's tangentially related to my hero, and it's a praise video. I have one that's tangentially related to... Oh my gosh, my brain. Related to Jojo's, that is a praise video. And then I have another one that's Jojo, and it's a little bit more critical.
Also, Black Clover, right? One of the fights in Black Clover you wanted to talk about?
Oh yeah, I guess eventually I could do that too. That is not one of the 3 that I'm going to be recording in the next, week or 2.
Good to know.
Also, I was gifted a very lovely... iPad, which is very good for digital art, and so I'm also setting a solemn intention that by the time episode 44 goes up next week, I will have at least digitized one of my sketches. And it is PreCure related, and it's Tropical Rouge related, so I hope that people will enjoy it when I post it.
I am sure they will. Speaking of holidays and gifts and whatever, happy post-holidays, everyone. By the time this episode comes out, New Year's probably will have come and gone. We're doing this on New Year's Eve, so we know the episode is late this week. We apologize. Holidays are hard, You gotta drive to a place, you gotta celebrate, you gotta eat Christmas food, and then you gotta drive all the way home. And it's a lot.
It's been a strange week for our household, for the King of the What Now household. Pete had to go on vacation. It was a whole thing. So next week, our episode should be out a little bit earlier. That's why I made the solemn promise before 45 went up, because it's not giving myself a lot of time to actually record those episodes.
Absolutely. Also, one more quick announcement, which isn't really an announcement. I got a vaccine yesterday, and it's making me feel a little loopy. So if I'm weird this episode, I apologize. I'm real tired.
Just this episode, though, when you're weird in, past episodes or, future episodes that's unrelated to the booster shot or anything?
Have I been...
Last week, we went on a lot of tangents, and we commented on being full of beans, and I'm worried that maybe we had some of that this episode so far as well. You can have fun, I'm just saying you and I aren't normal people.
Both of us. We're both strange, is
yes,
the assertion.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
I'm going to have to put up a Twitter poll on this. No.
Absolutely.
I can see from your face I've taken this joke too far. Is that about it for announcements?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that you've been very excited for a discussion question that I think maybe now is the appropriate time to bust out.
Absolutely. We are recording this on Friday, and because there's a new season of JoJo's out, it is a JoJo's Friday. So we've been trying to watch one episode a week to keep the spirit of JoJo Fridays alive. I don't know why I wasn't there for when that was originally a thing, but it made me feel good to not binge a series for once. I would like to know, if the Tropical Rouge girls had stands, what kind of stands would they be, and do you have names for them?
Very interesting. Now, to give the very brief and overly simplistic description of a stand from JoJo's for those of our listeners who don't know. The stand is the physical manifestation of your fighting spirit or whatever. They appear in the show JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and everyone has one, and as the series goes on, their powers become a little bit more unique and a little bit more tailor-made to the person's personality. So if someone was kind of controlling, their stand might be something related to like puppets or strings or chains or something like that. And if they were a kind, caring person, their ability might be the ability to heal, for example. Some of them still don't make any sense, but, usually it's tailor-made to their personalities. Let's start with the obvious one, Manatsu. I think that her stand has the ability to create tropica light. Its head might look like a sun, for example, and I think that it might have some physical abilities, because Manatsu, she runs real fast when she goes into her cure mode. She kicks real hard. But I think that its actual ability is the ability to shine this light on people and fill them with motivation and make their attack stronger. So she's actually a support unit for the other members of the team.
I love that.
And also, in case you haven't watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a lot of the character names are references to either famous musicians or bands or songs. It really just depends on what day of the week the author might pick one of those three. And so instead of coming up with a band that matches Manatsu, although I think Pocket Full of Sunshine would work really well, I think Manatsu's stand is just called Viva Spark.
I love it.
Okay. Do you have anything for Sango? I struggled trying to think of one for her.
So I'm kind of working on Sango in the back of my mind, but you know who I do have one for?
What's that?
I have one for Minori.
Okay, so do I.
Okay. So Minori's stand, my version of Minori's stand, is called Wake Me Up, and it has a powered up version it gets later in the season called Wake Me Up Inside. Now, what this does is it allows Minori to construct a narrative around the person such that they are living their ideal fantasy life. Wake Me Up Inside takes that one step further, and it transports a person into a story.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you channeled Minori's love for books and stories, because the only joke that I could think of when I was like, what can she do? Oh, it's obvious. She has the ability to grow papayas, and different papayas have different abilities. So she can grow papayas
Papaya
that
bomb.
are like explosive. She can create some papayas that like you can eat and gives you like, I don't know, +3 fire damage or something like that. She can create some that are like shields for her teammates. And I'm imagining in one battle, the enemy stand user is some kind of like ice ability that makes it hard for the papayas to grow. How is Minori going to be able to get out of this? And then in comes Viva Spark shining the tropical light that allows them to grow, and their combo attack allows them to.
Oh, I love that you worked in a combo attack.
Yes, absolutely. That is one of my favorite things to see in stand users is when they actually use their abilities in interaction with each other.
I've got one for Sango.
Okay.
Sango's releases a gas that makes you see her as whatever you love the most, and so you cannot hurt her.
Oh, it's kind of like an illusion thing. Okay. Can you think of any, like, obvious downsides? Like, do you think that the RNA dolls might have nothing that they love?
Yeah, or if it's windy, they could blow the gas away.
Okay, sure, I get that.
I think at first, whoever was fighting Sango's stand would be like, "Oh, usually if you punch the stand user, the stand user takes damage, except for when they don't. But we can't punch gas." But then, like, being able to blow the gas away would leave Sango vulnerable to attack.
Okay. I don't have a name for it, and I don't have anything more creative than it's the thing she does in the show, but she could also just have an ability that is just like her X, and then in some fight she could create the X and then like push against it in order, because the enemy would be like, all you do is make a shield. There's no offensive ability, and she'd be like, oh, there is like this. And then she pushes him off a cliff in Minecraft. So,
awesome. Yeah.
Would Asuka's just be she creates a tennis court and she smacks tennis balls at her opponent and they have to avoid it?
I feel like Asuka is the most likely to have a punchy boy, kind of like Jotaro's Star Platinum. I can just see her doing, you know,
The
a 10-page Aura or Muda Muda. Her stand is baseball bat, and it's a big old baseball bat that she hits you with.
Okay, yeah. Her stand can't actually like move around like many people's stands can. It's just a tool that she's equipped with.
Take me out to the ball game. We need one for Laura.
What if her stand ability is just the ability to summon a bunch of water? And then she can like swim around because she's a mermaid, but like her opponents can't usually swim around.
I'm sorry, listeners. I'm going to reference something that won't be funny to you if you haven't heard it, but it is really amusing to me. A water user in the desert? The irony. Joel will link that video in the...
Yeah, absolutely. Laura's stand could be a play off of these boots are made for walking. It's just a bunch of different feet wear that she puts on, and she just does a bunch of really powerful kickies.
Yeah, what if her stand is like an augmentation type ability, so it makes her faster?
Oh, okay. I like that.
And it could be called walking boots, because sometimes they aren't exactly a one-for-one with the song name.
Yeah, especially when they get translated into the American version. English version, whatever the correct term is. What if Laura's stand is just Kururun?
Buff Kururun, specifically.
As the music starts to play.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Also, listeners, please do check out part 4 of JoJo's if you have any sort of interest in colorful, punchy people. It's beautiful, and you really don't need very much background knowledge. They pretty much explain everything you need to know in the first episode.
Sure. There is one character who is a crossover from a previous part. Oh no, there's 2 characters that are crossovers from previous parts. But all you need to know is that one of the guys can punch really hard and the other guy is too old to use his abilities. So it really doesn't come up in the context of the story. Do you think, which JoJo do you think, or Gio, do you think that the Tropical Rouge Club would get along best with?
Absolutely, Josuke.
Josuke? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a wonderful Sunshine Prince.
Yeah, Laura could be like, people call my hair stupid too.
I love it. And that has been your mic test. No, it's not a mic test.
It's not a mic test, and it's not a final thought, so I don't even know what's happening.
It's the discussion question. That ends the discussion question.
It does indeed end our Tropica Shining discussion question.
Which means I get to answer today's Double Jeopardy question, which is, give us a succinct summary. And I'm not going to give it in the form of an answer, because this isn't officially Jeopardy. This is
in the form of a question?
What did I say?
In the form of an answer?
No, it will be in the form of an answer. That's very strange. I don't know what I'm on about.
So, at the beginning of the episode when I said I was very tired, is it possible you are also very tired?
Yeah, my blood is more Diet Coke than blood at this point, so...
Oh god, he's entirely made of sucralose!
All right, so episode 42 of Tropical Rouge PreCure. I almost called it Futari Wa. It turns out that this season of Hermitcraft is about to end in the Tropical Rouge server, and so everyone is doing their farewell tour of all the different builds that they've done. So we visit the...
Nobody knows what Hermitcraft is.
Hermitcraft's pretty popular. Okay,
a lot of people probably know what it is.
The season is ending, so it is the farewell tour of the school for Tro-fest. We see the astronomy club, we see the broadcasting club, we see the drama club, we see the student council club, and basically everyone is just kind of like saying goodbye. Minori is struggling to write the perfect ending to her play, and it seems like maybe next episode she'll figure it out. But she hasn't officially said what it will be yet. Asuka is confirmed to have gotten into Phoenix Academy with Shiratori, and those two have definitely made up. They're friends again, and Shiratori actually seems to be enjoying the Tropica Shine energy. She's smiling a lot more than we've seen before. Now, we get into the heavier stuff. Laura is starting to wonder if she will have to get her memories erased. And she tells Manatsu, as queen, I can just change the rule, which is exactly what I said a couple of episodes ago. But then internally she goes, but what if there's a reason that we have that rule and I can't change it? So she's a bit sad. She's trying not to let Manatsu know that she's sad, but I think Manatsu is the most perceptive to Laura's moods, and also they live together, so more time to interact. And then, oh yes, Manatsu gets eaten by a whale.
Excuse me?
Yeah, a whale. So the Yarnada shows up, the girls kick its butt, and it goes away, and they're like, sweet, we defeated it. And the butler chuckles, and he says, you mean these Chaos Emeralds? And a giant Yarnada whale shows up, and Manatsu's like, I'm gonna beat up that whale. And she jumps towards it, and he opens his mouth, or she, whatever gender the whale is, and just swallows Manatsu. The other girls try to go in and save her, but they get, shot out by, the Yarnada energy. And then the butler's like, good, now that we've captured your leader, I'm just going to go back to the base. This is a two-parter. Bye!
Also, Manatsu is untransformed inside this whale, so I'm curious how she's going to not drown.
Yeah, that is very interesting. She also seems to be trapped in some kind of, dream-like state where she's getting a flashback to the Alolan Executor PreCure. She seems to be preparing to give us some backstory, so who knows if episode 43 is going to be just one big flashback or something. Maybe 44 will be like, remember when we had a two-parter? Well, this is actually the second part. Last week's episode was just the lore.
Lore!
Also, please note that due to the holidays and whatever, Tropical Rouge does not have episode 43 coming out New Year's weekend. So Catherine and I try to figure out if the movie has been out and been subbed yet, but it looks like the DVD isn't going to release until February. So regardless of whether there is a legal means for us to watch this movie with English subtitles, or whether we do some pirate activities, we won't be able to review that for some time. So instead, we realized that the episodes of Fresh that we're on are right around when they did their solo movie. So next week's episode, we'll be covering the Fresh solo movie. By the time we finish this episode, I will have looked up that movie title so I can officially say, we're watching When Hope Springs Eternal, the friendship story, or whatever it's called.
I like your title.
This is post-production, Joel, and the title of the Fresh PreCure movie is The Kingdom of Toy Has Lots of Secrets. I'm not even going to attempt the Japanese version of the title, but that's what we'll be covering next episode.
Sick. Boop. I'm really looking forward to seeing My Heart Catch Girls again. It cannot come out soon enough.
Absolutely. Erica, Laura, friendship, the handshake memes, and just total chaos is the label of the handshake.
Gob. And I cannot emphasize this enough, Lynn.
Absolutely. But first, primarily we're a Tropical Rouge podcast. Catherine, did you enjoy this episode?
Yes, I would say so. We did watch this a week ago, so not a lot of it has stuck in my mind, save for Manatsu got eaten by a whale, and you made a joke about it being the gay rights whale because a rainbow came out of its blowhole.
Manatsu got eaten by a whale.
Oh, but other than that, it was a cute episode, and I'm glad that we're finally getting some of the Manatsu-Laura sad separation stuff.
They backloaded all of the feelings in the last couple of episodes of this series.
Very similar to Maho and Star Twinkle.
Yeah, I would say so.
Did Star Twinkle know all along that, Lala was going to have to leave someday, or did they wait to address that?
I don't remember what episode they initially brought it up. There was one kind of early on when they had, the J.J. Abrams parody character, but I don't think that they really brought up the fact that they weren't going to be able to use the warp gate until near the end of the series.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, this was an interesting episode. I made the joke about it being the farewell tour of the Minecraft server because I've been consuming a lot of Minecraft videos lately, but it really is sort of you remember all these characters who had, longer interactions with the characters early on in the season and then we haven't really seen since? Here they are again, so we got to see everyone, and it's really giving me end of season vibes, even if I didn't know, that there are only 4 episodes left or something like that. The fight was rather interesting. The butler is actually showing more emotion than he has in the past. There have been a couple of times where he's been, like, exasperated with Elda or whatever, but there were a couple of times where his facial expression was anger.
Now, I know this is a family-friendly podcast, so please, if you are under 18, cover your ears. This episode revealed that the butler is horned for the witch.
Yes.
But specifically her younger self, who was not the Witch of Delays, but the Witch of Destruction. And he wants to bring the Witch of Destruction back so he can give her a little smooch, maybe.
Technically, they didn't state it, but it's one of those kind of really obvious subtexts. And, we still have the suspicion that the butler is planning something larger, or, he's pulling the strings.
Yeah, you know what the Witch of Delays looks like? Maleficent. You know who Maleficent is associated with? Dragons.
The dragon is coming. The sea dragon will appear, and then Manatsu and them will summon the land dragon, and it'll just be an elephant with a dragon mask on, like from a New Year's party, and it'll be labeled dragon with a question mark.
So in college, dear listeners, Joel came up with the idea for a game in which your character is an elephant, and throughout the game you unlock different costumes, but it's all just the elephant in different outfits. That was it, right?
It was different transformations, and every transformation was always an elephant. So, like, your underwater form was an elephant with a little scuba mask and a little air tank.
Okay, that's right. And then the final one you unlock is unicorn, ... And it's an elephant with an ice cream cone taped to its forehead.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we're going to get as the Tropical Rouge conclusion. We had the question, we had Elda be like, will the Fool's Casket really give immortality, or is there something else going on here? And if immortality means that you get restored to the peak power, like in Yu Yu Hakusho when you use the spirit wave or whatever, I guess it could theoretically revert the witch back to her younger self. But can you think of something else that it might do that would aid the butler in his goals other than immortality?
So, before this episode, I would have assumed that the butler was going to turn on the witch and take the power of the Fool's Casket for himself.
Absorb her powers, use her as a mech.
Right. Now that we've had this episode, I believe he genuinely wants to bring the Witch of Destruction back, and I think he's going to attempt to aid her in destroying the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if Changi-Rei and Numeri and Elde get Yarine Dodd at that point, and the girls, like, save them from their own allies, essentially.
Absolutely.
But I still am expecting a turn from those three.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of seasons that we've watched have the generals show moments of, like, their life before they were generals, or, like, moments where they're not necessarily pure evil, yada yada, and then at the end of the season there's, like, a time skip forward, or it shows, like, a couple of months after the final battle, and they're just, like, walking around being, like, good guys. And I would much prefer it be a little bit more spelled out, kind of like how Kira did it, where you get a bit of their backstory right before they're redeemed, and then they get turned. And it's not just something that happens in the background. I hope that the final episode isn't Laura in the palace either as queen or as, like, the queen in training or something, and in the background you just see, like, Changi-Rei handing out fish cakes or whatever. I hope that there's a moment where he talks with any one of the Tropical Rouge girls, and they're just like, you can make cakes for the surface? And he's like, really? You think that they would like it?
Absolutely. I think that would be nice. Did you have any favorite scenes or quotes that you wanted to shout out?
I want to double back, and I just want to point out once again, Laura internally thinks about, what if there's a reason that we have that rule about humans not being able to interact with the sea people? And I know that there's, like, the One Piece angle, or the angle of, like, racism, even if that's too heavy of a word for it, but, like, there might be humans who would try to misuse the magical powers of the Mermaid Kingdom, but I really want there to be an explanation, and I hope that it's a good explanation. I hope that it's not just, oh, we thought that they'd probably try to shoot us with harpoons and we never tried to talk to them, but Laura talked to them and it turned out to be okay. Like, I hope there's a little bit deeper of a meaning behind it. But I don't know if we have enough episodes to get into that. If episode 44 or 43 really is just the legendary PreCure, whose name we don't know, just giving a backstory of like the history of the Mermaid Kingdom. I guess they could fit it in that way, but I'm guessing it won't just be flashbacks, so which means that we won't have enough time to go into that relationship, that divide.
Absolutely. I don't think I have any other thoughts on this episode. Are you ready to talk about episode 43 of Futari Wa PreCure, Fergie's Birthday Brouhaha?
All right. So really quickly, I wrote this down in the notes because I saw this on the wiki when I was looking up some information about a character from this episode or something. There was an English dub of Futari Wa. I believe it's the only season to get an English dub. I believe it aired in Canada, and Nagisa was renamed like Natalie Blackstone or something like that.
And then something White Castle.
Yeah, exactly. So they had like really obvious last names that correspond to their Cure colors, and their names were made a little bit more anglicized. And anyways, episode 43, I guess, was called Fergie's Birthday Brouhaha. And first off, brouhaha is just a funny word. Also, it kind of sounds like bruja from the Spanish, which means like witch. So now I'm thinking that Fuji P is actually just a witch in disguise.
Also, can we take a moment to appreciate that his nickname in the dub is apparently Fergie? Does that mean he is Fergalicious?
I was about to ask, do you think that they named him that before or after the Fergalicious craze swept the nation?
You know?
Because this was like 20-ish years ago, right?
It was 2004 was when Futari Wa came out.
Okay, I feel like Fergalicious was already a thing at that point.
Yeah, let me see here. Fergalicious was released in 2006.
Oh, okay, so maybe Fergalicious has secretly always been about Fuji P.
Maybe Fergie named herself after this background character from the dub of PreCure.
Absolutely. Now, episode 30... Well, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Episode 43 of Futari Wa. It is Fuji P's birthday. Who is Fuji P, you might be asking? Because he's a nothing character who's just in the background. We've mentioned him a couple of times. It's the guy that Nagisa has a crush on.
His main character traits are attractive and good at sports.
Yes, those are the two main ones. And this episode, we actually do get some interaction between him and Nagisa, which I appreciate, and we'll go into more detail. But what's the succinct summary? It's Fuji P's birthday. Nagisa is like, oh, I should do something for his birthday because I like him. She has a friend who we've never seen before and does not have a page on the wiki because she's not important enough to have that. But this character shows up and is like, Nagisa, we've been best friends forever. I gotta tell you something. I've got the hots for Fuji P. And Nagisa's like, you go get him, girl. Act on your feelings, while internally being like, she's making a move on my man. And ultimately, it seems like Nagisa is kind of, quote unquote, lost the battle for Fuji P, even though it wasn't really a battle. And the entire time, Honoka's just being a good partner to Nagisa. Do I mean romantic partner? Do I mean friend? Do I mean teammate? The answer is all of the above.
Yeah, this definitely had some powerful Honoka Nagisa moments. I wish Nagisa wasn't so oblivious to Honoka.
Yeah.
And I also... We've talked about this before, but I'm just so tired of I like this boy, but I can't tell him because embarrassing? Like, either share your feelings or get over it. Which is kind of what Honoka was saying, but...
Yeah, well, and it's a relatable thing for young people to have that problem, you know, confessing their feelings and talking about their feelings and stuff like that. But like you and I have been commenting on, Fuji P doesn't have much of a character, and he doesn't really interact with Nagisa. There was an episode where they went to like a carnival or a year-end festival together, and I think one of them sprained their ankle and helped the other one down the mountain. But like, there was no connection between these two characters. There was no interaction. It was just two characters on screen, and they happen to be going up the mountain together. But in this episode, Nagisa is all sad, and she goes to, you know, the place down by the river that they always show in every anime, where people have like their lunch or they're hanging out after school. And Fuji P sits down next to her and asks her what's wrong. And she can't talk about it, but he has a bruise on his ankle, and he's like, oh, no, don't worry, it's fine. And when he sees that she's sad, he gives her, what's the term? It's not a scarf. It was a scarf, but she called it something else, like a muffler, maybe? Muffler, that's what it was, yes. So he gives her his muffler, And I thought that scene did more to characterize their relationship than 42 previous episodes of Nagisa pining after this guy. And to be clear, he's not in every episode. Some episodes are about the lacrosse team or whatever. But all the ones about Fuji P have just been boring until this one. It's still not great, but it's not boring. I really appreciate that Honoka had a reflection of all the times that Nagisa has helped her. And again, like I said, it kind of feels like a girlfriend situation. It kind of feels like she's been there for me in our relationship, and friends are there for each other as well. But I don't know, most shows don't have a flashback montage of friends that are, or of characters that are just friends. But Honoka fights really hard because Nagisa's having a hard time getting her head in the game. Get your head in the game. And when she gets blown away by Regina's attack, Nagisa is like, how dare you do that to my friend? And she starts punching really hard. And it was cool. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. It was despite the Fuji P stuff, it was a pretty good episode, I would say. I really enjoy the relationship between these two characters.
Yeah.
And I think that is the strength of this season. And I think it's something we lose in some of the bigger team seasons.
Oh, for sure.
We get some of that with Manatsu and Laura, but when you can really focus on just the relationship between two cures, you get a much stronger picture of their friendship.
Yes, as much as we love Go Princess on the show, it's one of our top ranked series, I would say that the relationship, because we watched Go Princess and Witchy at about the same time, and they're back-to-back seasons, the relationship between Mirai and Riko, still not sure which one they'd prefer for her last name, but their relationship was stronger than the relationship between the four girls in Go Princess. It just so happens that Go Princess has slightly better visuals and more interesting villains and yada yada yada, all those other things.
Every time we talk about Go Princess, I think how weird it is that my favorite cure from that season is Twinkle, but my favorite cure from all the seasons we've seen is Flora.
The human mind is a strange thing, you know? When you think of your favorite overall, you're looking for different characteristics than your favorite from a particular season.
Totally.
We also got confirmation in this episode of Futari Wa that there's a plot happening with the bad guys.
There's what?
It's not good. That's
not nice.
The three evil seeds have decided that they're going to turn against Jaku King, and they're going to use the power of destruction to make themselves stronger, and they are going to rebel against Jaku King. So it seems like the final battle might not be against the weird giant creature, it might be against these three seeds. Maybe they will inject themselves with like evil steroids or negative energy or something and become like giant versions of themselves or something, but that's certainly where the plot's going. The smart one, Belze, maybe his name is, says that they are changing, and when Regine fights Nagisa and Honoka, she even mentions like, how am I changing? But we don't see any difference, so maybe it's a feeling in your heart that she's changing rather than an actual physical attribute or a special power or anything like that.
Yeah, again, I wish that they did more showing and less telling.
Yes.
With the villains in this season. There was a cute moment between the Zakena butlers where he made a bunch of scones and he's like, yay, my hot scones fresh out of the oven. And then he turns around and they're all gone. And he's like, where did my scones go? And the tall butler has like crumbs falling out of his mouth and his mouth is full. And he the little guy jumps on him and is like, you give me back my scones. And then the tall butler reaches behind him and starts shoveling more scones into his mouth.
Makes a concerted effort to show like swallowing the biscuits and disrupting the other one. I like these two. I just wish that they had names other than Zakena and Zakena. They're literally just called Zakena Butler, and there's no way to distinguish them other than to say the short one and the tall one.
Lil Zakena and Big Zakena.
I could see them getting their own spinoff, like, there's a chibi version of Naruto called, like, Rock Lee's Springtime of Youth. Like, you could put those two in their own side comic, but they don't really add anything to this show, and I'm confused as to where they came from because they just kind of showed up one episode.
Totally. I'm really excited to talk about the fresh episodes we watched because my boy shone like a diamond.
Oh, I thought you were saying your friend Sean. I'm like, I don't know a Sean, but you meant, okay, yeah.
Is it pronounced shone? He shone bright like a diamond?
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I didn't realize where you're going with the sentence, so I thought you were using a proper name. I'm like, there's no guy named Sean in the show.
We don't know any Seans!
Are you talking about Psych? I like that show. Okay. This week, we watch episodes 37, 38, and 39 of Fresh PreCure. We will cover them in order. Episode 37. The girls are super worried about Chiffon now that the bad guys know that Chiffon is Infinity, and Chiffon just goes into Infinity mode every once in a while. And it turns out that Miyuki knows someone. It's actually one of the three boys that likes the Fresh girls, who has a mansion with a secret underground training facility. And we find out that each of the girls have a different special ability. Love can punch, Miki can kick, Buki has endurance, I think, and
Setsuna's speed.
Setsuna, can sprint really fast. So they do these individual training things, but Miyuki goes, maybe what they need is dance lessons she was already giving them, and then they get mad that she's trying to give them dance lessons instead of, like, punching or kicking lessons, and they seem to get mad at each other, even though there was no, like, prior build-up to this fight, but then during the big battle, Miyuki is like, hey, why don't you girls try dancing together? And they're like, oh my god, that's how we defeat the bad guys.
The dancing is a metaphor for friendship.
But they get a new combo attack and they defeat the Soro Watase. And yeah.
The new combo attack is so awesome.
Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Do you have the name written down by any chance?
No, I do not.
One moment, please, listeners.
I believe that the attack is called Lucky Clover Grand Finale.
And it's so awesome. Okay, so Cure Peach says, Cloverbox, lend us your power. And they all get into formation. Like, she literally says, like, girls get into formation, like in the song. And then they kind of like pose like they're about to run. And she goes, go! And then in reverse order, they join the team. So starting with Setsuna and ending with Love. They each summon a leaf that represents their element and then throw it to the next person.
They're writing love letters and passing them back and forth to each other. You know, Setsuna creates a heart, she imbues it with passion, and she throws it to Buki, who catches it, and then she goes, +1, prayer leaf, and she adds her prayer and faith into it, and then she throws the love letter to Miki, and then Miki adds hope, and then she throws it to Love, who adds
love.
Love, yeah.
Yeah, Setsuna's is happiness.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, the Crimson Heart is the proof of happiness. So even though her name is passion, happiness is her element.
Okay. And then they surround the monster, they put it inside of a crystal, and they do the, what I like to call spin you monster, spin to death animation. Except this time they don't have an actual physical toy you can buy from the store, but they do still make the ha sound, and then the monster gets defeated. And it's really good. Kat and I have been talking because they've used this attack 3 times now in each of these episodes that we watched. We really like the first part, especially when they're like getting ready to like tackle their opponents. It really looks like they're football players and they're about to, snap the ball or whatever the correct term is. Just enough about sports to be dangerous, but I don't actually remember what that's called, the lineup or whatever.
Smack the quarterback.
Another thing that I really like, and I don't know what it is, it tickles my brain goo in exactly the right way, but something about the way that they say in English +1 before adding their next thing, I like that. It tickles my brain goo.
Yeah, like when a fantasy author puts a system in their book that could be compared to a video game, that's no good. But when it's video gamey stuff in anime, it's like, oh yes, this is the good shit.
Well, it's not even video gamey stuff. Like if we had an English show, a show that was written for an American audience, I don't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender was created by in America, I believe. If they had some attack where they each said +1 as they caught it and then threw it on, I wouldn't like it. If they did it in Sentai series, I wouldn't like it. But something about the medium of anime makes me really enjoy the phrasing.
If they did it in One Piece, I think it would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're right that would tickle the goose correctly. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about this episode?
So the Daisuke and his 2 friends, whose names are not important enough to remember, but each one of them has a crush on each of the original 3 PreCure girls. So Daisuke and Love, and then there's a glasses guy who really likes Miki, and then there's a shorter guy who really likes Pine.
No, opposite.
What?
The little guy likes the tall girl.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Oh. Huh. Okay. Anyways.
And then the shy guy likes the shy girl.
Okay. If you say so. So they kind of pair off nicely. There's 3 boys and there's 3 girls. When they show up to the training camp in their Cure outfits as Cure Peach and whatever, they each get introduced, and then you see the boys talking to each other, and Daisuke's like, man, Cure Peach, she is cute, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then the one who likes Miki is like, oh my gosh, I really am a fan of Cure Berry, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. But then the last guy goes, Pine's great, Passion's great. That 2-timing son of a gun, you're allowed to have one crush, Mr. Background character whose name is not important enough to write down.
Look, he's never going to get to kiss any of the PreCure. He has a parasocial relationship with the PreCure at best. So he might as well fantasize about both.
I suppose so. Fantasize is a strange word to choose.
They do specifically say, like, I only really have a heart for Miki or Buki or whatever.
Oh, yeah, but their Cure personas are pretty nice, too.
It's funny to me that 2 of the guys are really open about their crushes, but Daisuke has never once said anything about having a crush on Love to his buddies.
I guess that's true. We, the audience, see a lot of very clear tells, but I guess you're right that he doesn't quite profess it in the same way that the others do. I happen to have the PreCure fandom wiki open, and apparently the characters whose names are not important enough to be remembered are Yuki and Kento, but I'm not going to remember those. So I might remember Yuki because his name is the same as the rat guy from Fruits Basket, and it means snow and or courage.
And Yuki was your favorite character in Fruits Basket.
Moving on. Do you have anything else about episode 37 that you want to talk about?
Nope. The conflict was a little contrived. They have learned the lesson that they have to dance as a team / fight as a team in a previous episode.
Yeah, so I think what they were trying to go for is that they all care about Chiffon and they each wanted to prioritize what they thought was the most important way to take care of her. Like imagine if Miki was like, we have to get stronger, we have to be able to kick mountains over, and we'll just train all day. But Buki was like, no, we have to love Chiffon and cuddle her close or whatever. Like, if they did something like where they each had a different idea on how to approach the problem, and then they realized that the solution is less important than all of them working together, that would work pretty well. But as is the case with many episodes of PreCure, I think it's just too much for the 22-minute format.
Absolutely.
Also, 2 really quick notes. Westar was doing himself a bench press. He's still working out. He's got that himbo energy. And secondly, the underground mansion where they were doing their training for PreCure stuff, a lot of not allusions, parallels to the X-Mansion, or the X-Men Mansion, whatever it's called, because it's also underground, and they also have like a giant hangar that opens up into the courtyard of the mansion.
Suspicious. I do have one quick observation about Chiffon as Infinity. And I don't necessarily think this is what the writers were going for, but this is kind of where my mind went. So I used to work with a little girl who had absence seizures. So she would be standing, having her normal time, and then all of a sudden she would just go blank. A lot of the time she just fell asleep standing up when she had one of these seizures. And it was sad, and it was really scary, especially for her family, I imagine, because they were living with this all the time. And that's kind of what Chiffon reminds me of. Chiffon has a disability now, and they have to be on alert all the time for this disability affecting her.
Yeah, that's a wonderful parallel that is somewhat muddied, or perhaps enhanced, depending on your view. I think muddied is the right word in my opinion. The fact that when she has what could be a seizure or a medical condition, she's attacked by monsters, that's not quite as good as a one-to-one comparison to real life.
The monsters are a metaphor for systemic ableism.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Solar does do some shady stuff with a child in next episode. Let's move on to episode 38 of Fresh PreCure.
All right.
Chiffon is having her Infinity episodes, and they can happen at any time, so Tart is real sleepy because last night Chiffon woke up at 2 in the morning and he had to keep cranking the clover box to help her come back to herself.
That could be a metaphor for going to work. Cranking the old clover box again, eh?
Okay. So Miki offers to watch the clover box and help Chiffon in case she goes into Infinity mode. The problem is is that a small child, unaccompanied by parents who is not used to being told no, asks to see the clover box. And when Miki says, no, giving it to you could cause the end of the world, the girl starts to get sad. So Miki decides to take this precious, one-of-a-kind, magical artifact and give it to this 5-year-old. And then she gets a call and decides answering this call is the most important thing. I'm going to take my eyes off of this child because children are so well known for behaving in all situations. The kid almost gets hit by a truck in the 3 seconds it takes Miki to, look back at the child. Miki saves the kid, but the clover box gets lost. Wah, wah. So now Chiffon's having one of her episodes. She's fading from reality. She's like, her body is disappearing. Miki is being unhelpful. She's not telling the other girls what happened to the clover box. She's being really down on herself. But then everything works out okay. To make a long story short, Solar finds the girl who now has the clover box because some guy found it and gave it to the nearest child that he found. And Solar finds the kid and he's like, I'm going to take that box. But he can't take the box. And then Miki shows up. And then Miki's like, what if I smiled through this moment? That would give me strength.
Because Chiffon told her to, because she's hope.
Right. I want to circle back to that because I still don't like it, regardless of whether she represents hope or not. But basically, she decides that she's going to protect Chiffon, she protects Chiffon, and then they defeat the Sora Watase, and Solar's like, grr, and he runs off.
So I didn't like this Miki episode when we watched it, but I've just had a brain blast that has made me appreciate it a little bit more. So Miki's whole thing is being perfect. And this is the first major mistake she's made in the series, and it could have cost Chiffon her life. And so I think that what she was kind of learning in this episode is even if you make mistakes and you're not perfect, you can still hope for a brighter tomorrow, and you have to share that hope with other people, and that's more important than perfection.
Okay. I definitely like that reading. I just don't know if I would ever come to that reading on my own from having watched the episode or whatever. But yeah, that's good. See, what I thought the episode is try not to be sad because you can't help the sad thing, so just smile through it. And I do agree that having a positive attitude can help, but there's just certain situations where if you found out that a family member had a disease, you wouldn't start laughing, right? You could to try and show that you have a good positive attitude, but it could also come across as kind of weird and it's not affecting you.
At the same time, if you got really sad and emotional, that places a burden on the suffering person to support you. Whereas if you're smiling through the pain and you're supporting them, that's better.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially in because Chiffon's obviously a metaphor for parenthood for these girls, even though none of them gave birth to Chiffon or whatever. They adopted this fairy child. I agree that Miki can't be calling herself names in front of Chiffon or whatever. I just think that you can't go to either extreme. You can't be so depressed that you're useless, but you can't be so ignore the whatever that you don't even try to communicate kind of what you're feeling to the other people.
Totally. We had an episode of Kira Kira about that.
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other thoughts on this episode before I get very excited about the next one?
No, I really think that that's about it. I did appreciate Kier Berry pulls out the Espoir sword, I think it's called, and she's about to use it, and then she throws it in the air, and Solar looks up, because, obviously, and she goes, that was just a distraction, she just decks him. That was pretty smart. I really like that play.
Miki's amazing. I love how punchy this season is.
Yes, it's very, very good. That is one thing, too. I think this season might be the one that most directly copies from Super Sentai. It has the PreCure kick and the PreCure punch and the PreCure double kick and the PreCure triple kick. And that's dumb anime thing, them calling out their names. I don't always like it, but in this case, I do like it.
I get a little thrill watching Kamen Rider every time somebody says Rider kick.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I get that same thrill when they say PreCure kick, but especially when they say double PreCure kick.
Yes.
So, all right. Episode 39. Westar decides he's gonna go on vacation.
He's playing hooky.
He's all excited. He's got a little like button-up Hawaiian shirt on and a hat, and he's gonna go and he's gonna eat food and have a great time on the beach. And Northa catches him, and Northa's like, "Hey, where are you going?" And he goes, "To fight the PreCure, mother." And she goes, "Are you?" And he goes, "Am I?" And she says, "You forgot your Sora Watase." And he goes, "Oh, good, I was just gonna come ask for one of those." So he takes the Sora Watase and he goes. But he has no intention of actually fighting the PreCure. He just wanted to go on a vacation, and Northa frightens him.
Yes. I do want to point out, for anyone who maybe has trouble with sarcastic tones like I do, he does not actually call Northa Mom, but that is a great, like, "Mom, can I please go fight the PreCure? Have you washed your hands? Yeah. Did you finish your homework? Yeah. Okay, you can go fight the PreCure as a little treat."
But come in before 8.
So they go, is it Okinawa where they went?
I believe so.
Okay, there's a chance that that's wrong. I don't feel like looking it up, but Westar is going to a vacation spot. Setsuna and Love are going on a school field trip to the same place. So even though Westar wasn't trying to fight the girls, he ended up running into them anyways. Now our boy Daisuke.
Beautiful boy.
He really likes Love. His relationship with Love works way better than Fuji P because he actually has a character and you can see him interacting with her. And he decides that he doesn't want to fight with her because girls don't like fighting, so he should just be really nice to her. But every time she does something dumb and he tries to like bite his tongue and it just goes, "Nothing's the matter," and walks off, it starts to get to Love. She starts getting a little upset. Long story short, when the Sora Watase shows up and Cure Peach is fighting it, he tries to find Love, who we saw going into the forest, and the forest is dangerous. He gets attacked by the Sora Watase, and Peach saves him, and they get kind of stranded on the beach, not really, for like a second. And he's like, "Oh man, I keep messing things up with this friend of mine. This friend who is a girl, who is not my girlfriend." And Love goes, or Peach goes, "I think you should try talking to her. I think things will work out." And then she goes and she beats up the monster. There's a hilarious scene with Passion. I want to get back to that in a moment. And everything seems fine. Love and Daisuke go back to their regular kind of competitive, kind of like butting heads kind of way. But it's obvious that this is how they show each other's appreciation. Also, I believe that Miki and Buki get teleported there to help fight the bad guy because, remember, Setsuna has the Aka rune that can teleport people. And I think at the end of the episode, those two girls are still just there at the school trip because one of them is talking to one of those characters whose name's not important enough to remember about Daisuke and Love. Maybe it was Setsuna. Maybe. But I thought it was Miki, like, still hanging out in Okinawa.
I love Setsuna's sheer panic, too, when she shows up to where Miki and Buki are. "You have to come fast! Love is having problems!"
Yes, it was so good. So does Chiffon go missing? Oh yeah, Chiffon goes into infinity mode, and Tart can't catch Chiffon because he has a stomach ache from eating too much food or something. And so Love runs into the forest, and you see a scene of Miki and Buki just hanging out at Karu's donut shop, and they get a call, and Setsuna's panicked. She's like, "Where are you?" And they're like, "We're at the park." And then Setsuna teleports there and like runs up to them, and she has like the biggest like, "Oh my god," expression on her face.
This is a Sora Watase appreciation podcast. I really love the Sora Watase for this episode. It's a big old puppo.
Yes, there's a specific type of like temple guardian or good luck charm in Okinawa. By the way, Daisuke's from Okinawa, so he's kind of like playing tour guide for Love this entire episode. And that's what Westar turns into a monster. And it's drawn really well. It looks really cute. I want a plush of this one on my desk by Monday. It's such a good boy. And unfortunately, they do have to fight it, but they return him back to his rightful guardianship.
Love was so angry.
Yes.
That Westar turned the sacred guardian of a temple into a Sora Watase.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "That's important to my pal Daisuke, who I have a platonic relationship with."
I did see him once scribbling a drawing of himself sitting between Cure Peach and myself, and even though that's not realistic, it was kind of cute. I was thinking about it too. Anyway, Westar shows in this episode the duality of Westar, because when Love points out, you turn this symbol of peace and hope into a monster. Wesker says, I can do whatever I want. He's selfish, he's evil, he's mean, he's the Grinch given human form. But when he's defeated, he says, oh, well, guess I'll go eat some food, and falls out of a tree. It's the duality of Wesker. He can be a mean Grinch, or he can be a lovable teddy bear. You know, get yourself a man who can do both.
He even has the green hair.
He's
just a clean-shaven himbo Grinch. Too bad we already have a title for this episode, because that would be a good one. The clean-shaven himbo Grinch appears.
I like it. Now, I did say I wanted to talk about Setsuna in this episode, but you kind of stole the win from my sails because it was the episode of her teleporting to Miki and Buki, so I'm ready to move on if you are.
Absolutely. Hit me with those Tropica thoughts.
Absolutely. That one welder guy, he's going to get frequent flyer miles from us pretty soon here. We'll do a reward system. We'll mail him his punch card.
I will figure out how to make a plushie of his favorite cure fairy.
Okay. But anyways, his main thought was, I was not expecting Manatsu to be Jonah this episode. It is interesting, at the very beginning of this episode, the seahorse, the butler, what the heck? The butler says, I will summon the strongest creature. And my first thought was, don't we already know what the canonically strongest creature is, because that's the thing that the girls summoned for their aqua melody or whatever the attack is called. And so I was like, is it going to be a blue whale? And then it was a blue whale. And getting eaten by the whale, it's happened in a couple of different media. It's pretty famous for that one Jonah guy. But I was not expecting Manatsu to get eaten and kidnapped inside the belly of the whale.
I also was not expecting her to get eaten. I wasn't expecting her to get eaten by herself.
What?
It's just, Manatsu is usually pretty good about fighting with her team, but she charged on ahead for no reason other than plot convenience. And so she got eaten alone and taken away.
Yes, but actually, if you ask a literary scholar, the term belly of the beast is actually a metaphor for facing one's fears, you see. So is it not possible that Manatsu felt the most strongly about having the motivation power stolen and getting it back? So she was the most desperate to attack the butler, and so she had a 5-foot lead on the other girls, and that's why she got eaten.
That's true. It could be. Also, really quick, I just want to point out that the girl's attack is a whale shark, not a blue whale.
Oh. Okay, so I was on the right track, and I did guess whale, and I think I guessed blue whale just because I knew it was the biggest, and I'm like, maybe they're going to think bigger equals stronger.
It is the largest creature on Earth. You have to see it from the air in order to see it without any distortions. That's how big it is. I would love to see one in person, up close. I think that would be really cool.
Absolutely. Really quickly, does the fact that Manatsu is inside a Yarnadel's mouth somehow give her a connection to the legendary PreCure?
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We're all familiar with the story of Jonah from the book of Jonah in the Bible. Jonah was asked by God to go be a prophet to a bunch of really scary people who were very violent, and Jonah said, that sounds like it would suck. No thanks, I'm going to the beach. So he tried to go to the beach, and God was like, hey, that is not cool, my guy. It's not cool. And he sent a storm to mess with Jonah's boat, and everyone on the boat was like, hey, Jonah, this is your fault. We're going to need you to get off the boat. And Jonah was like, we're in the middle of the ocean? And they were like, we're going to need you to get off the boat, buddy. So Jonah gets kicked off the boat, gets swallowed by a whale. Inside the whale, he has a vision of God. And he says, you know what, God? Yes, I will go to Nineveh. I will do it. I will serve the Ninevans, the Ninevites, as it were.
Hey, Catherine, what's Nineveh? None of your business.
So I think Manatsu got eaten by the whale because she was in some way failing Densetsu no PreCure. And I think she's having a vision of Densetsu no PreCure because the legendary PreCure will reveal to her what it is she wants her to do. And if Manatsu is strong enough to say, yes, Densetsu no PreCure, I will do it, then she will be released from the belly of the whale.
Okay, I have another theory. We kind of seamlessly transferred into crack theories, and in a second we need to read next week's episode title. But what if... This is a crack theory, and there's a kernel of truth to it, but just know that this part is joking. What if Manatsu is haunted? And the legendary PreCure is the ghost that haunts her, and only she can see the ghost. So the ghost can't appear anytime Laura's around any of the other Tropical Rouge members. So it's not being inside the whale's mouth. It's not going near the Witch of Delays that caused the woman to show up.
Away.
It's being away from the other four.
Okay, I like that. Alternatively, imagine Minori figuring this out, and she goes to the Tropica clubhouse and all the other girls are there, and she picks up a gun, and they go, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Manatsu's haunted." And they say, "What?" And she cocks the gun and goes, "Manatsu's haunted."
And just walks out. That's incredible.
Also, really quick, I just want to shout out the VeggieTales version of the Jonah story. That's why I have Jonah memorized, because my sister watched that almost nonstop when we were kids.
Now, from what I remember, I've never seen VeggieTales, but it sounds like they usually change the context from the biblical context to something that's a little bit more like kid-friendly. Was he still trying to avoid being a pastor or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. They didn't change that detail or whatever.
No, but they weren't explicit about the violence, I guess. I think it was something like they're constantly throwing pies in each other's face.
Yeah.
They used the most annoying character to play Jonah. So when he starts whining about, like, "God, why are you making my life so hard?" And God is like, "These people's lives are much harder and you won't do anything about it." It's just, it adds that extra touch.
Oh my gosh, Laura with the meme, "God, why do you give me the hardest battles?" And God is like, it's a packet of Pringles that you can't get open. You are my weakest soldier. So really quick, to go back to the, Manatsu's haunted crack theory, I think there might be a kernel of truth to Manatsu as the one who can see the Densetsu no PreCure, specifically because even in a team ensemble a cast, the main character or the lead character is usually significant in a way that the others are not. In the dinosaur season of Sentai that we watched, the main guy was the one who had the most Tropica Shining Dino energy or whatever, and it was his dad that was related to the whatever was going on. So I think that if there is something that needs to be done to fulfill the Densetsu no PreCure's final wish, I think Manatsu being the one who Tropica shines is probably the one who can accomplish that thing. So if the thing is befriend the witch, maybe Manatsu is the only one properly equipped to be able to say the right words to the witch that heals her heart, that causes her to stop being evil. So I think the fact that Manatsu is getting this message from beyond the sea or wherever, I think that is because she's the one who's going to have to do something.
Okay, I like that.
Now,
what is next week's episode titled?
Episode 43 is going to be titled Invade Witch's Mansion in the Sea. Now, you know what's interesting about this? Didn't we already have an invasion of the Witch's Manor? It's
not all of the girls went there.
Okay.
Laura and Karurun got captured and they escaped and they reunited with the girls in the sea.
Okay. I think the girls were going toward the witch's mansion, and then they got distracted by a Yarnada on the surface or something like that.
Yeah, but they never actually made it there, so this time they're going to go in.
Okay, the part of me that likes literary analysis, and sometimes, my brain goo is tickled when I hear something like, the bad guy only ever wears red in these scenes because the red symbolizes blah, 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 blah. I think it's interesting that we are now getting the exact opposite situation of before, where before it was Laura got kidnapped and needed to be saved, and that was right near the halfway part of the season, and now near the end of the season we have Manatsu has been kidnapped and needs to be saved, so I appreciate that. I hope that there's some, spooky magic in the witch's mansion. So, they keep trying to go to the end of the hallway, but every time they get to the end of the hallway, they turn around and they're at the other end of the hallway, and they're just like, what is going on here? I hope that there's some fun riddles in that mansion that they have to solve.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this episode. And I think that has been your Doot Final Thought outro goes here.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't forget, the enemy Santa's right behind you!
Ah!
Walk like an Egyptian. I was trying to think of what's the sound that they play at the end of each one.
Look, they stopped using roundabout at this point in the series, so
our content can't just be us quoting better content.
What a shining episode of Cure of the What Now. Thanks for being our Nakama.
Thank you as always for your support. If you could, very kindly, be sure to like or share this with any of your friends. Let them know that we're always open to suggestions or thoughts about any particular episode.
And please take a moment to rate and review us on wherever you get our podcast from. Except for YouTube. You can't rate and review us on YouTube, but you can like and subscribe.
Absolutely. If you like what we're doing, even just a comment that says keep up the great work is always helpful for brightening our day.
Absolutely. Joel, where can our fine listeners find you if they want more of you?
Absolutely. The best way to get in touch with us is to go onto Twitter and find us at KOTWN_pod. That's where we're most active. But of course, we also have a Gmail. That's kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com.
You can also find me at Pirate Ghost Host.
She is much more prolific than I am, but not all of her content is necessarily about the podcast, whereas the other one tries to focus more on the show.
You like our sticker sheets? Joel's got sticker sheets for you. And that has been your Tropica outro.
Do-do-do-do. You'll be dancing with me today.